there is a spiritual lesson in everything. And when we're able to see through it and be like, oh, wait a minute, this I learned, yeah, I got hurt, but I actually learned this. And then we start to alchemize and transform all those situations. Then we start to say, oh my God, I turned this coal into like diamonds. I actually had these little gold nuggets that were dirt, and I polished them into something very, very shiny. And you start to transform what was like, poo-poo into something that's like really beautiful. And that's where you actually get your wisdom. That's, from looking at your experience, because wisdom comes from experience. But this is not just good experiences. It's actually all your experiences, especially the challenging ones. If we can learn something from those challenging experiences and transform that challenge into something useful, that becomes wisdom. And then we keep doing it. It's like, oh my God, I have a lot of wisdom because I made a lot of mistakes. And so that's what the soils of wisdom is, that transformational process from everything that we've guilt and shaming ourselves about, and transforming that into our own customized wisdom, because no one has your experiences. Sure. I didn't make your mistakes. I made some of them, but you have your own customized wisdom that nobody can give you, that you have to give yourself, but you got to work for it, and you got to polish it, and you got to chip away at it, and you got to dig for it. And in doing that, you literally become your own man of wisdom.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I'm very privileged to have Issei here with me. And if you don't recognize that name, you might recognize the face. His name was formerly Kiko Ellsworth, and he was on shows like Criminal Minds and one of my all-time favorites, Lucifer. A bunch of others that we could go down the list, but just start off and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, since you mentioned the Hollywood stuff, I think just in the nutshell, I started off in my mid-20s in Hollywood and kind of shot to fame, and it was really just because I had stage fright, and so that's why I started doing it. And then it just evolved, and then I started feeling really empty about 7-8 years into it, and then I walked away, dropped everybody. And then I started my spiritual practice and started learning how to meditate, and became a Kundalini yoga teacher and all this other stuff. And I really, found my spirit and soul and all my prayer and stuff like that. And then more recently, in the last year or two, Hollywood started knocking back on my door again. And, and I just recently finished a film. And so it's kind of like a blend of what I do now, which is I coach men, I'm a self-mastery coach, as well as I'm an inspirational speaker. And, the acting thing is something I always love too. And who doesn't like going to go see a great movie or TV show or Lucifer or whatever? It's just fun stuff. And so I do those three things to do the best I can to make a difference in our world and help train our brothers to, stand up and make a difference in here and be, stand-up men.
Yeah, we need more people like that. I don't know what's wrong with our men nowadays, but a lot of them don't want to really be men. And, being that I'm a father and a grandfather, it's important that we teach our children to be proper men, and of course the ladies be proper ladies. But you mostly work with men, right?
Well, it's interesting. Now I do. But since 2003, for about 15, 16 years, I worked with women and with self-defense. And I was the vice president of a local nonprofit, domestic violence awareness, nonprofit. And I taught them self-defense. We did rape prevention seminars. I did talks and workshops, and just so much, almost 2 decades with teaching women like how to protect themselves and really to fill up their divine space, that energy around them, how to use their voices. And it's like that was preparing me. When I look back in hindsight, that was preparing me to work with the men. And I didn't know, because towards the end, they would ask me, oh, this is great that you have this for us, but can you work with my husband? I was like, I don't really work with men. I mean, I could teach them how to punch, but that's not really. And so, but it was the prerequisite, because really with men, I really helped them to embrace that feminine aspect of themselves, or that receiving aspect. It's kind of like, you know, because guys kind of think about, like, when they say feminine, it's like, well, I'm not a woman. It's like, no, it's not that you're a man or not a woman. It's really like you have the gas pedal and the brake pedal. You have like black and white, or up and down, or hot and cold. These are just polar energies, masculine and feminine, and being able to like swing between, depending on who you're with or what you need to do. You know, it's like, if we're talking here, you know, sometimes I might, you know, right now I might be in my masculine and talking to you and penetrating into the space and giving the space and talking. And at the same time, I have to know when to be in my feminine or receive, and just kind of sit back and listen. And I have to kind of feel it out and know when to be more in my receptive or feminine state, and just really balance out the ebb and flow between us, like as we do this interview.
Mhm.
So someone that, like, if I was too much in my masculine, I'd be talking too much, like I'm doing right now. I'll just be talking too much. So I'm gonna be in my feminine and be like, yeah, that's it. Nice little bow.
I got you. Well, it's funny. I was talking with the gentleman earlier, and we were doing an interview about how he mostly works with men, and basically trying to get guys to know, well, number one, that they have people to fall back on, but also to open up about their problems, because you know, guys are raised to not show those kind of emotions. You know, be the tough guy, you don't cry, you take it. But the sad part is so many men do that, and then when they really have problems, they get to the point where they break down. Do you help those guys to kind of open up and to express whatever's going
Totally.
on?
Totally. I mean, it's really all about that. You know, I gave you like the big egg, the big elephant in the room, because most guys would be like, well, I'm a man and I'm not a woman. And there's nothing. And then we kind of reject feminine energy because we are all about being a man. But when we accept that part of ourselves, the details of it are learning how to express ourselves, learning how to be in touch with our emotions. You know, okay, it's okay to feel, it's okay to receive, it's okay to express. You know, it's okay to, you know, share these hidden parts of myself that I usually don't share. So yeah, when we work with men, you know, we work with them on how to express themselves. Really, my program's called The Divine Man, right? Self-mastery program. And it's all about being a divine man. And so the difference between a divine man and a human man is really simple. A divine man, or a human man, has his roots here on the earth, and a
Right.
divine man really has his roots from heaven. So he
Yeah.
knows that he's from heaven, and so he sees things from that perspective. A man that's a human man really sees things from the earthly perspective. So he might be more materially driven. He might be more monetarily driven, and, you know, take things for face value. And that divine man really looks at things from a deeper level. He looks at things that, okay, if I do this, am I going to be proud of myself when I finish this life and I go back home? You know, he really, and so understanding and being able to expand that perspective and that identity of the man, because most of us identify like as a human man, and that's okay. But if we're looking to do something a little bit different, we might want to change our self-identity into something else and be like, okay, I'm a divine being, not just a human being, but I'm a divine being in this human body. And so that totally changes everything, you know, being able to update that self-identity.
I was that guy that, I had to be tough all the time, and things that happened to me as a child, I hid away. And it about 30 years goes by, and I had a breakdown, and finally I was able to talk about it. But the fact is that I held it in for so long, and then I let it eat away at me, got involved with substances and abused them, of course. And I was an alcoholic by the age of 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you tap on something really key there, Kyle, which is, being able to there's a part in like AA and these different programs where you just admit that I don't have this figured out. I remember I had my breakdown and I was crying to my wife at the time in like 2009, and I told her, I was like, I have no idea who I am. I was bawling, tears on the ground, on this dark brown carpet, this small little room. And I didn't know I had already been on the TV shows and already done that stuff. This is when before I started, investing in the Kundalini yoga. I had that breakdown, and I said, I have no idea who I am. I don't know how to make money because I let go of the ego. I think for men to realize we're in a natural evolutionary process going from a caterpillar to a butterfly. When we hold on to our ego, that human man, he's kind of the caterpillar, really. But when we become that divine man, we transform into that butterfly and our wings come out. But we all have to go through that chrysalis phase. And that's like what you're talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the hardest phase, is like dropping the old, shedding the skin, dropping the anger, and then really reworking yourself so you can realize that you have wings.
Being that you were in Hollywood and we hear the stories, the party life and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how those temptations can draw someone in. How are you able to resist that life and get on the path that you're on?
When I was in it, I wasn't resisting it. I wasn't. It was, for me, I think the most insidious thing about, let's just say, Hollywood, because this happens everywhere. It's not just Hollywood, right? It could be corporate, where you're on this, this ladder, and it's like, oh, I gotta be this particular guy, right? That's steps on everybody to the top. It's the same thing. For Hollywood, for me, what I've noticed is that, going back to the identity thing, it amplifies whatever's there. And I didn't have that sense of myself, so it just amplified. Oftentimes I thought I was more important than what I was, which wasn't the truth. And then sometimes I thought I was less important than what I was, which wasn't the truth. And now it's just like, oh no, I just am what I am, and I can stay steady with who I am and be rooted in that. But how I ended up getting through that is I started becoming very unfulfilled. And I had like four agents, or three agents and a manager. And over the course of like 3 years, I started dropping this one. I dropped this one, then I dropped this one, then I dropped this one. Then I just dropped the last two on the same day. And that was the happiest day of my life. I dropped my commercial agent and my voiceover agent, and they were great. But I realized, oh, I need to tap into me. I need to invest in me. And I understand that acting is not what I want right now. What I want actually is me. Because that's my whole saying, is that once you have you have everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got it. I got it that day. I was like, oh man, I'm going to invest in me. And that put me on my journey, put me on my path. And now Hollywood's knocking on my door. I just finished a film called Alone Today, which it's oddly enough, it has everything to do with domestic violence awareness and human trafficking, child trafficking. And I play this character that's really interesting, that's pivotal in the film, especially towards the end. I can't tell you too much, but it's really after becoming a divine man, I'll just say, or after allowing that part of me to come out, because I think that every man has that divine man within him. If he invests in it, right, that part of him will grow and come out and spread his wings. But being on the set after finding myself as a divine man was so fulfilling. It was to be of service for God there on the set in such a chaotic place, to be able to be that place of peace and solidarity on the set, where all hell breaks loose on the set. You talk about like people yelling and this, and make sure their trailer is this, and I didn't have my water, and diva here and diva there, and director, and people feeling small and beat up, and it's crazy. And being able to just not be affected by any of it was the best. And then to be of service, to be able to, give people solace and to be like, oh, just I love you, brother. Just breathe for a second. It's all good. It's going to be okay. And they're like, oh man, thank you so much. Because so much is happening. So it was the best experience ever, being able to also act from a place of peace after I really anchored myself in my own divinity.
Now, there's going to be someone out there that is reluctant, and you can understand why. Some people have a hard time letting go of chaos. They're letting go of earthly things. But there's that ridicule that comes along with it. Did you find when people that you knew in Hollywood found out how you're going on your path, did they treat you different? Did they avoid you? What was that climate like?
No, I think people always knew I was different or weird. So I think they expected it from me. They know that I'm like, oh no, he's a little bit different, and I just kind of went off and I do remember right before I cut everybody off, when I dropped like my theatrical agent, which was right before the last two, we got into this big argument. And it was when I was really starting to like tap into myself, but I wasn't fully committed to the path just yet, and leaving that behind. And he said, yeah, but your look, and I think I had like a little beard and certain things like that. My look was changing. And he said, yeah, but your look, I can't really submit you for like an FBI agent. It's just too, he was kind of saying it was too unique. It was too specific, and it was kind of pigeonholing me in a certain direction. And I remember us getting into this, and not so much of an argument, but I was just a passionate debate, really is what it was. I was telling him, I was like, look, you have no idea. You guys have no idea what you want. The casting directors, the producers, it's like, you say you want this, but you don't even want that. What you really want is me. You want the real me. And I knew at that point, I wasn't anchored into the real me. And, I said, I'm discovering the real me. And, I'm not doing this for you, but what you want is what I'm actually doing. And I'm doing this for me, but this is what you guys want. And I'm not there just yet. I'm not anchored into me. I need to invest in myself a lot more. And I just remember having that and just standing up to him and just, really, taking back my power. That was a big day.
Yeah, that to be able to, I guess, resist what they're trying to make you do and being true to yourself. It's got to be difficult in that, that whole Hollywood thing.
Well, yeah, especially when you, as actors, I'll just say actors, this could be like directors or anybody, because it's sort of like this hierarchy thing over there too, right? But especially as actors, we go into Hollywood thinking that Hollywood can actually give us something, that we actually want something from Hollywood, like it's going to give us some sort of fulfillment or gratification. We go into it thinking that we need an agent, that we need, that we need to be nice to the casting director. We need to be nice and suck up to the producers or the directors, or that they have something, some sort of golden egg or golden ticket that they're going to give us if we do the song and dance good enough, and that's how it's positioned. And we go into it with that sort of backdrop. But that's not the truth. The truth is that really they need us. They need our heart. They need our expression. They need the energy that makes Hollywood go. And we all need each other too. But like, no one should give away their power thinking that they need something from someone else. Really, everyone is valuable. Everyone has something to offer. And when I walked away, I just took back all my power. I saw how valuable I was just as a child of God, and said, oh, I'm learning. And as a man, the things that we don't know how to do, which we learn how to do, which I also teach men how to do, is literally how to love themselves. Because that's just a word to a lot of us, like, oh, love yourself. Love. It's like, yeah, but what does that mean? Love yourself. I have no idea what that means. What does that mean today? It might mean, like, I know for me, it might mean it meant at one point disciplining myself, getting up at 4 a.m., investing in myself, doing yoga, breath work, things like that, to, taking cold showers. And then years later, it meant, oh, no. Loving myself meant I need to sleep in. I need to sleep in and not get up at 4 a.m. because I need to know how to fill myself up with energy, not force myself to do things. So it's just like, how do we love ourselves? So, and it changes all the time.
Yeah, that's a hard thing for a lot of men. Well, a lot of people in general is to love yourself. We beat ourselves up like crazy. There's
Yeah.
always something that we're putting ourselves down for.
Yeah.
My wife gets on to me because I do that. Sometimes it's joking, but underneath, I'm really being serious.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
times
It's
I
true.
just don't like me.
Yeah. It's wild because you said it at the very beginning, Kyle. You were like, how hard us men are on ourselves, and we don't share certain things, and we don't talk about things. We don't talk about where we're at. And one of the main things that us as men do, and how what boys are taught, is that we guilt ourselves, we shame ourselves, we beat ourselves up, and we only celebrate ourselves, which is key. This is very unbalanced, right? We beat up ourselves and shame ourselves and guilt ourselves constantly, but we only celebrate ourselves when we think it's something significant enough or big enough, or we do something big. And that's so rare. That's so rare. So we have this mound that's building over here with guilt and shame and all this stuff. And then we have this little thing over here where it's, oh yeah, I celebrated my birthday, and oh yeah, and I got a new job 4 years ago, and I got a raise 2 years ago, and yeah, that's it. No, we learn to celebrate ourselves every single day. We learn to, hey, I didn't get so mad at my child today. I didn't get as mad as I did yesterday. That's a win right there. I didn't get as mad. I did a little bit better today. That's a win. Or it's like, you know what? I took a minute to think about that. And I actually, I did my breathing practice today just for a couple minutes before I got off work, before I went in, I breathed. It's like, that's good. It's like, yeah, it's these little things. There's no big things, only the accumulation of these little dominoes that start to fall in order every single day. And when those dominoes start to fall in order, it starts to create this big, huge, amazing design, because you're like, wow, I'm getting my days all to fall, and I'm celebrating. Now you have a whole amazing domino collection that's just like, that's all it's about. And we've been tricked in thinking that it's something magnanimous, like, oh, I got to win an Emmy Award to be valid. But until that point, until I do, I'm not happy. It's like, no, that's totally backwards. And so that's the reprogramming that we as men largely need to do, is celebrate every single little thing, every single little thing, every single day.
And it's funny you mentioned about how you win an award or do something really significant. You're good for a very short time, but then once the feeling kind of goes away, then you start beating up on yourself again.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, we don't have that daily habit. So if anyone's like listening, it's like learning how to celebrate ourselves, right? It's only the little things, whether it be the anger, or it's a little bit more patient, or I expressed myself a little bit better today, or I ate a little bit healthy. I ate a green thing today. I don't ever eat green things. Or I drink some water today. It's like, yes, I did a little bit because we're all in process. And my process, like how I got here, and I'm still moving, is it was just these little tweaks, little tweaks every single day, and creating these little habits, little tweaks. I remember when I went to all plant-based eating, and I was still eating tuna and salmon, and I said, you know what, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna still eat this tuna and salmon, but one day I will be plant-based. And then I ate my tuna, and then one day it disappeared. And it's just these little tweaks, these little upgrades, that just we start to build ourselves up as men.
And another thing is building relationships with other people. Uh, I think we try so hard to, I don't know, we're trying to impress people, and we think that's how we're going to make friends. Sometimes you just meet someone, you love their personality, You just want to say, you know what, I really like you. I want to be your friend. This is an incredible story, but I met this guy and his wife, and we got to be really good friends. And then one day he just says, "Hey man, you know what? I love you." And it kind of set me aback. I'm like, men don't say those kind of things, you know. But he really meant it, and him and his wife have basically taken us into his family. We need more of that. We need to find someone that we can say, you know what, this person really loves me. Express that.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not trying to sound like a wuss here. I just think that we need that to I don't know, keep our sanity. Know we have somebody that's got our back. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
I love you, brother.
I love you too, man.
You know, I think when we work out the mental aspect of things like that and really think about these things like on a day-to-day basis, you know, especially if we believe in like some sort of higher power, and it makes it so much easier when you can create a space, you have someone that can support your development as a person, as a man, someone that you can really share your deepest desires or pains with. And, you know, things like that. I've thought so long and hard about like saying I love you, because you're not supposed to say it to a man, and you're not supposed to say it to a woman on a first date, right? You're not supposed to say those things.
Right.
But I'm like, you know what? I believe in a higher power. I think that everything is from power. That's what I know to be true. And if that's the case, then I love all of it, because all of it's here. It doesn't mean that I have to, you know, accept bad people into my life. It doesn't mean that I don't, it doesn't mean I don't defend myself. It doesn't mean I don't have boundaries. It doesn't mean that. It just means for me at the core, I can honestly say that I love everyone and everything. Everything has a purpose. I might not understand it, but for myself, I've rationalized I love you. I love myself. I still love my ex-wife. I love, you know, I love strangers. It doesn't mean that I have to, it doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't mean I say, you know, to a woman on a first date, you know, and it's like she gets all uncomfortable. You know, I say, look, sister, I love you. And she's like, really? I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to get in your pants. I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to manipulate you. As a sister, like as a sister, like I see the soul in you. I'm relating to the soul in you, that I want you to accomplish your life's mission. I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe. I want you to be healthy, you know, as a brother. That's it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, nothing romantic. And then when I really say it, they're like, oh, okay. They really start to understand and start to release what they think I mean. And I'm just able to say, I love you. You know, getting back to that, like you said, is really, it just takes a little bit of work and attention, you know, from what I've experienced.
It's almost like a reassurance that you know that you can count on that person, that they're going to be there, they're your friend. And so why would you say that to somebody unless, you know, you're like, hey, you know, you can believe in me, you can trust in me. I'll be there to help you out when I can.
Yeah.
It really was one of those aha moments, I guess you'd say, in my life. And to this day, I mean, we are like brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I see it. I see you and me as brothers. I only met you the first time today, but I literally really been thinking about this for years, and like, you know, marinating it for years. I see my dad as my brother first and my dad second. You know, one of my mentors said to me, you know, it's divinity before humanity. And I was like,
Mm.
wow, I have been thinking about that for years. I was like, divinity before humanity. And I was like, wow, it's like we're all divine siblings. In divinity, in heaven, we're all brothers and sisters. Plain and simple. There is no, you know, I'm from here. It's like, no, we're just all divine brothers and sisters, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
what I think about in my head. I'm like, well, if divinity before humanity, I love that. That works for me. Like I can look at you, Kyle, and say, I love you, brother, and honestly look at you first and be like, that's my brother first. And then I met his human aspect, which is, a man from, near Austin, Texas, or that's where he's at right now, and I look at my mother as my sister first, mother second. I look at my daughter as my sister first, my daughter second, but it just gives me more information to work with when I look at them and I interact with them, a brotherly, sisterly love and respect that really helps me out, at least.
I want to kind of give you a little background about myself real quick, and you'll understand what I'm trying to get at. But I was a Baptist preacher for about 5 years, and I got to a point where I had a fallout with my preacher, and things happened that made me mad at God. But I guess when I had the fallout with preacher, that was why I started stepping away from the church, and then getting accused of trying to spread rumors or whatever around the church, which I wasn't doing. But irregardless, I found myself, and I didn't think of it at the time, but I found myself looking at the human part of it. The church I was going to, it was their rules. It wasn't what was in the Bible, it was their rules. I've visited many, many churches. Everybody has their own way of thinking. They got their own little rules. I didn't like religion anymore. Didn't want to go to church. Didn't care for any of it. And then finally, when I got remarried, my wife kind of encouraged me to get back on a spiritual path. And when I got on my spiritual path, I found myself drawing closer to God. Don't believe in religion. I mean, I'm not putting anybody down. If that's what you like, hey, go for it. That's just my personal experience. I don't care about religion. I'm on a spiritual path. That's what you're doing as well, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much, is what I'm doing myself. It's funny, me and my former wife, she was just over here earlier. We're closer now than we've ever been before. That's a whole nother podcast interview right there in and of itself, just our relation together. She grew up and she was a part of every religion. She got to where she's at, and I was a part of really no religion, and we ended up at the same spot, and with her and our story is like that. But yeah, I think every person has their own free will, and they really have their own path and responsibility to themselves to find their own path. My path and your path may be similar, but they're not the same. I don't think anybody's path is the same. Even if we believe in the same thing, we still have a little bit different path, and you got to do it this way, got to do it that way, So yeah, I definitely consider myself on my spiritual path.
What is I think it's called the Soils of Wisdom. Is that what I read?
Oh, yeah. In the Divine Man self-mastery coaching program, there's the term that I call the Soils of Wisdom. And we kind of actually went over half of it earlier. Those things that we as men feel guilty about, are shaming ourselves about, are beating ourselves about. We can list, men have created lists and lists and lists and lists. I did this, I did that, I did this yesterday, and man, I still feel bad about this every single day. And we have a whole list of these things. And usually we relate to those things as soil, like we soil a diaper, we poo-poo all over the place. But when we really look into it, we start to see, and this is a little bit of a process, that we may think of it as soiling things, but it's actually the soil of our wisdom. That's where our wisdom grows out of. Just like cow manure. Cow manure grows things, right? Well, just like this soil too, it grows our wisdom. When we go back, and there's a process that we go through, when we go back through these situations that we usually guilt ourselves about and shame and all this other stuff, and we really look into it, like with a laser, like with a 3D lens, this sort of transparent lens to see in it, we start to see that there is a spiritual lesson there. In that challenge, in that mistake that we made, in that error, in that misunderstanding, in that particular where we hurt that person or where we got hurt, on the surface, yeah, oh, it hurt me and I'm bloody. But when we really look into it, it's like there is a spiritual lesson in everything. And when we're able to see through it and be like, oh, wait a minute, this I learned, yeah, I got hurt, but I actually learned this. And then we start to alchemize and transform all those situations. Then we start to say, oh my God, I turned this coal into like diamonds. I actually had these little gold nuggets that were dirt, and I polished them into something very, very shiny. And you start to transform what was like, poo-poo into something that's like really beautiful. And that's where you actually get your wisdom. That's, from looking at your experience, because wisdom comes from experience. But this is not just good experiences. It's actually all your experiences, especially the challenging ones. If we can learn something from those challenging experiences and transform that challenge into something useful, that becomes wisdom. And then we keep doing it. It's like, oh my God, I have a lot of wisdom because I made a lot of mistakes. And so that's what the soils of wisdom is, that transformational process from everything that we've guilt and shaming ourselves about, and transforming that into our own customized wisdom, because no one has your experiences. Sure. I didn't make your mistakes. I made some of them, but you have your own customized wisdom that nobody can give you, that you have to give yourself, but you got to work for it, and you got to polish it, and you got to chip away at it, and you got to dig for it. And in doing that, you literally become your own man of wisdom.
Can you talk about maybe the biggest fail that you've had in your life that you learned from?
Oh man. And I love that question. That's a great question, because failure, my divine side knew that it was a lesson. Initially we looked at both my former wife and you got me?
I'm gonna have to get you to start that one over, because for some reason it froze.
Okay, you got me now?
Yeah, I got you now.
Great. So initially, my wife, especially my former wife, thought that our marriage was a failure. And I wasn't really clear about if it was either after we completed it. But that was the biggest thing, that I didn't show up. I didn't know how to be a husband. I didn't know how to be empathetic and feel where she was at. I wasn't a proper provider. I was completely fractured as a man, in my mind, in my spirit, in my emotions. My relation with my father was completely like cut off emotionally. There were so many things that my marriage became the dumping ground for.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying? And but like doing this work was able to repair and clean up all my messes. And that's like one of my most proud things. I cleaned up everything with that. And I still look and I'm like, is there anything else I need to clean up with my marriage? Okay. And sometimes I ask her, because we are like this right now. I'm like, are we good? It's like, is there anything else that, and we're still, just aware, because when you're together, the longer you're together, I feel, the more layers there are to just tend to, and with we were together married for like 8 years, but we were together total for like 15, 16 years. So there was a decent amount of stuff there, and we experienced a lot together. But being able to clean up my marriage, because that was a huge mistake, and there was a huge learning experience. And that actually made me, completing my marriage made me a man. When we were co-parenting and she was dating someone else, and I was free to do whatever I wanted. And she came to me one day, like almost a year into the relationship, she was like, will you give me your blessing? Because she was stuck. She couldn't really fully give herself to him, because there was a part of her and I that was still together that was incomplete. It's kind of like you invest all these areas in your life and you become this ball of yarn together. And over the years, you have to, instead of just divorcing and chopping it, it's like you have to learn how to like unweave each other. And it takes time, it takes care, it takes awareness to just keep unweaving each other. So that was one of the things she said, will you give me your blessing to be able to give my love to this man? I was like, yeah, you my sister. You're my sister first, my ex-wife second. I love you, my sister. And I gave her my blessing. And that was a whole completion ceremony of its own. We were crying. It was like we had 5 emotions mixed in one. We were like amazed. We were scared. We were joyful. We were crying. We were like, oh my God, I want you to do great. I love you. And it's like, I release you. It was like amazing. It was total. And in doing that, that's when literally God blessed me. That's when it made sense to me. Like there's because all of my thoughts and my feelings, all of my thoughts and my feelings and my actions were reflecting the word of God in that moment. And I had never done that before in my life. All of my thoughts, every way I felt in my body, and everything I was doing and saying was for the love and goodwill of her. And I wasn't wanting anything in return. I wanted my sister to do good. And it's just, that was the first time I got it. That was the first time I learned what love was. I got the experience of what love was for myself. I think that's what so many of us are missing. Is like love, if we just talk about it, it's just a word. But like we have to have an experience, like an experience when all the lights on the Christmas tree light up at the same time. Usually they just blink, 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 off, on, off. But it's like when they all just like, they come on at the same time. That's when I gave my love to her, and I just wanted love and goodwill for her. And I didn't want anything to return. I just released her and wanted her. That's when I got it. That's when I, got my own enlightenment. That's when I became a man. Like, and when I say a man, I mean a heart-centered man that knew that experience, that had that access to that love, that real loving power. I became like that divine man. I was like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like to love somebody. And then I started learning to love myself. Woo! Thank you for letting me get that out, brother.
Hey, I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, man.
So basically, out of your greatest fail became your greatest triumph. That's amazing. That's amazing. And your teachings can help so many guys out there. I know there's going to be somebody watching this saying we're probably a couple of wussies and all kinds of other things, but you know what? I don't care. I don't care. My life has changed so much because of God, the Spirit of God, and for caring for other people. It can release so much if you just learn to let go. I don't care what people say. They call me a wussy.
Yep.
That doesn't matter. I know God's love has changed me.
Yeah.
The Spirit of God has changed me, and you ain't gonna convince me otherwise. All these people can say they don't believe in God. I don't care. That's between you and whatever happens to you in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna get up and start preaching in a minute.
I mean, you hit on something really key. It's there's a human man, let's just say, lives in his head. A divine man lives in, from his heart.
Yeah.
And he knows the heart, we don't feel things in our head. It's easy to rationalize things. I can judge the heck out of you from my head, but I can't judge you from my heart. I can't judge you from my heart. I have to accept you. And most men are stuck in our heads. I'm sure you remember when you were stuck in your head.
I still get that way from time to time.
Hey, but that's, what do they say? The longest journey for a man is from here to here. Right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
And anchoring and having that living from here, and knowing when to drop in and use our head, knowing when to do this. It's like, yeah, I need to use my my computer today, but this is such a much more powerful computer right here.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's awesome. And once you like experience this and accept the emotions and the tears, the love, the sensitivity, the kindness, the humility, the joy, the power, the silliness, you become a fully integrated, complete man. Usually men, it's like we're like cars. We're like
Mm-hmm.
a 12-cylinder car. And a man that's stuck in his head, only using his ego, is only using 6 of his cylinders. But when you actually activate and start using your heart and have that experience, you start activating from all 12 of your cylinders. And then you get like turbo boost and stuff like that, which, you know what I'm saying? That stuff start flowing through you when you need it. But 6 cylinders, yeah, you can do some cool stuff, but very limited.
I'm gonna share a story with you, and maybe you can give me the answer. But when we first moved up here, mind you, I mean, my wife had her family and friends, but they didn't. Her family didn't live close to where we moved to. She had friends. I had the hardest time making friends when I moved here. And anyway, I met someone I interviewed him, and I got kind of vulnerable. I was like, I'm tired of being lonely, and I was like, man, you think that we could be friends? Wouldn't talk to me after that. Just ignored my messages, and I tried not to be bothersome.
Yeah.
It was like, I need to talk to someone. I need a man that I can talk to. I mean, my wife's my best friend, but let's face it, guys need guy friends.
Yep.
Why would someone treat you that way when you just want to be friends with them?
Yeah. Well, there's a difference. Here's the thing. First of all, I want to say, outside of this interview with you and me, bro, we're connected. You can call me anytime, email me anytime, and we can jump on and do this, because my work really, and my love and my passion is about us brothers connecting no matter what, and us doing that. So know that I love you. I'm here. Literally, email me after this and we're good, and let's just stay connected. You know what I'm saying? Just
Sure.
reach out. Do. So that said, when you have that sort of reaction, it's really simple. You're dealing with a man that's really rooted as a human man. And then you, at that particular point in time, you were like moving into your divinity, right? You had kind of released the anchors and insecurities of the ego and being in the head. You're like, but I'm reaching for something else. I'm reaching for something more. I need something more, right? But he was still really anchored more in this. There's a lot of insecurities over here. There's a lot of self-doubt over here being in your head. There's a lot of judgment over here being in your head as a human man, that doesn't really operate from this particular space. This human man may drop into this heart center space from time to time, but he's not rooted here. He doesn't have his identity in from heaven or from that heart place, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and your identity was more rooted and yearning more to come from this particular place, yet he was more from this place. So it was really his insecurities, his judgment, or his doubt, or his questioning himself, or him not understanding what you meant with that, because he doesn't have an experience of wanting communion or brotherhood. It's very natural. That's why guys in the army stay friends, because because we fight together. We got brotherhood. He doesn't have an experience of brotherly love, of that sort of platonic agape brotherly love. He probably thought that you meant something. Men usually like that will translate as like, be around me. What is he, gay or something like that? They're gonna automatically think that, because they don't have an understanding and an experience of like brotherly love, which is why you said it's necessary. Brotherly love is necessary. If you actually have a real brother, you understand that you get along with enough, even if you fight with him, you understand the power of brotherly love. It's necessary. We're not meant to be men out here by ourselves. We're meant to be with a band, a wolf pack, not a lone wolf. We need our wolf pack. Iron sharpens iron. So with that, he'll come around whenever he evolves, if he chooses to seek more than being a human man. That's his choice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He may stay this way until the moment he goes back home, or he may not. But when you talk to a man that has his roots in heaven, be like, yeah, brother, let's connect. Let's do it. I've been alone. I understand that, and so that's really, what was happening. I put my life on it.
What sucks is after that, I mean, he ghosted me. and I felt embarrassed. It's like maybe I sounded like a stalker or something. I don't know. It was really embarrassing, and sometimes I still think about it.
Yeah.
That's that cycle of beating myself up, and I didn't
Yeah.
mean any harm. I just like I need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I mean, I have friends, but they're all back in the Houston area.
Yeah.
And a lot of them I don't hang out with because they still like to party and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sorry, I'm in my 50s. I don't want to party and act like a teenager anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a grandpa.
Yeah.
And even the ones that I'm, still friends with, they got their own lives going on. I get it. And but we come up here. I did meet one dude when we were in North Austin, and we got to be buddies. And I kid you not, as soon as we became friends, we had to move, and we moved to South Austin. So I only get to talk to him on the phone every once in a while, or
Yeah.
maybe we can meet up. But irregardless, I can ramble on. Men need guy friends. We need brothers. We need
Yeah.
soul brothers.
That's what you're mentioning is really huge. It has to do with the entire world, because when there's a whole awakening that's happening where men are starting to wake up these other cylinders of themselves to become that 12-cylinder vehicle. A part of that is that communion with one another, that brotherhood, that heart. Our heart is opening, and when that heart starts to open, it's like, no, I need my brother, man. It's like, you want someone to go play basketball with, you want someone to drink with, and you don't want to do it on a surface level. You want someone to say, hey man, she's not listening to me, man. Like, what was your experience when she wasn't listening to you? It's like, oh brother, you want someone to, like, heart to heart with. That's what we all need. And that sort of awakening is happening on the entire planet, where all of us brothers want our brothers to talk to, where can't we're not supposed to talk to our sisters about brother to brother stuff, man to man stuff.
Yeah.
And there's an awakening that's happening, and not all men are awakening at the same rate. A lot of us awaken, everyone's at a different rate, but us coming together is so key, and finding out how to do that is so key. It's something that will help to build us as men, and to become really just more well-rounded men, so we can be more of that for ourselves, our wives, our children, whatever that is for yourself. That brotherly camaraderie has been a missing element for so very long. Again, I reference the army. That's why guys in the army, because when they get that brotherly bond, when they really experience it, they don't want to let it go. But we don't have that brotherly bond out here so much. There's very few men's groups, things like that. It's few and far between. We really have to, like, look under rocks for it. And so, like, your desire is not, unique of its own. Like, a lot of men are going through that. A lot of men want to connect with other men, but we, like, in the beginning, we're uncomfortable. We
Mm-hmm.
don't understand, because we're still doing this. We're still moving from here to here. And when we're mainly here, that's where the insecure, the judgment, the guilt, and that keeps us from connecting with another brother, right? But when we do
Yeah.
our own personal work and start to come down here and start to learn how to go internal and hear our intuition, and have our little meditation practice, and learn how to be guided here and trust ourselves and move from here to here and really live here, like, oh, okay, we start to really become anchored in that perspective. Because I remember, like, when I reached out to a buddy too as well, when I was seeking guidance, I didn't have a mentor, and something happened with my buddy and he ghosted me too. Same thing happened, but he
Jeez.
took it the wrong way. And I wasn't really clear and rooted like how I am now. This was probably like maybe 8 years ago, something like that. I was just kind of getting on my path, so I wasn't really clear and rooted in where I'm at right now. And because I think about that from time to time, like, oh, he took that the wrong way, and it's like, no, I needed guidance, I needed a role model, I needed a friend, and he inspired me, and he took it the wrong way. And it wasn't like I was like but he just took it the wrong way. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But now that I've gotten to this place, I'm like, I hope I see him one day. So I'm like, look, bro, thank you. I love you. And like, you know what I'm saying? I love you. Boom. You know what I'm saying? And be able to just interact in that way. Because for a few years, I was like feeling bad about it myself as well.
And the thing is I knew he was supposed to be a Christian, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be friends with him, because, like you said, I needed some guidance myself. I was trying to get my life together and be the kind of man that I need to be, and be the grandfather that I need to be. I mean, heck, to be the dad I need to be, and being this guy's supposed to be a real Christian. I thought, man, that's the kind of person I need to be friends with. And I guess he just took it the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your program real quick.
Sure, man.
Tell me everything that you can tell me in the next 5 minutes.
I'll be a lot. I think I'll be quicker than that. I know I've been talking a lot on this interview, but hey,
No, take your time, man.
Sometimes it comes out. You know, the Divine Man, you know, I'm the founder of the Divine Man Self-Mastery Coaching Program. And the short of it is it's all embodied in the saying, once you have you have everything. And I help men to find who they are on the inside and anchor in that particular place so they can really come from that soulful, powerful, charismatic presence that they are, and from their heart. And the program, so this year I'm really working on with one-to-one privates. Right now I only have enough time to work with a few more private clients, because it's a lot of energy to work with clients. I'll be launching like the group program.
Hold on just a
So
second.
basically,
It froze
I help
again
a
for
man
some
through
reason.
every area. Oh,
Hold on. I don't know if it's my end or your end. I'm doing whatever I can to fix it. But anyway, you said that you were doing one-on-ones.
yeah, I do private coaching right now for the rest of 2022. And then like around the summer of 2023, I'll be launching the group program. So we'll be able to work with, you know, groups of men and bringing men together to help them through this sort of process. And so, you know, it's just a process of awakening. It's a process of clearing out the old baggage, anchors and shackles, and that slow us down, and reinventing ourselves with a new identity that you and I like work on doing. You know, a lot of things start to change. We relate to our significant others very, very differently. We start to relate to ourselves differently. We take on new practices. We learn to go internal with practices of like meditation and breath work. We learn how to process and see ourselves differently, all to, depending on how long we work together, to the exterior. Because usually it's when you reformat who you are on the inside, usually that starts to express on the outside to stay in alignment. When you change here, the outside starts to change. So I didn't always dress like this. I can show you at a point in time actually in my life when I was going through that chrysalis phase, when I let go of my ego, but I wasn't who I am now. And you'll look at me, and I even how I dressed was very unclear. And I just didn't have me. And it's not about the external, but the external also is an expression of the internal. And once the internal gets right and aligned, then it becomes a natural expression to allow that external to be aligned with it as well. Then we learn how to express ourselves through clothes and things like that. So, you know, in short, the Divine Man program really helps a man to anchor in who he truly is as his own very divine man, upgrading himself from a human man.
And where would someone go to sign up for this?
Yeah, you can go to thedivinemancoaching.com, thedivinemancoaching.com. And I have lots of helpful videos as well on TikTok. It's my handle for TikTok and Instagram is A Divine Man.
Is that the only social media you have?
Pretty much, I think that's the most relevant. I mean, I have some stuff on Facebook, but really the platforms that I mainly use particularly for this, that are the most relevant and up to date with regards to being a divine man and this whole conversation, because it's the conversation between men and women. You know, we're not just being a man to be a man by ourselves. We're being a man, learning how to be a man so we can be, you know, the co-creative partner to the feminine, because it's about the feminine and the masculine together. It's like what we create together. How do we create this balanced, you know, world together? So ultimately, it's about us coming together. So on TikTok, on Instagram, there's the conversation about, you know, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, because it's all about that yin yang.
Cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on today. This has been enlightening.
Oh, bless you, brother. Souls of wisdom, man. All my mistakes. I know a lot of us have a bunch of them. So, and we all have wisdom to share. So I'm not unique in that sense, man. You know, we all have that wisdom to convert those experiences, to convert into wisdom, to be able to share with the world. And I teach, you know, people how to do that. It's like, go back. You got a lot of wisdom. You're going to inspire me with your wisdom. Let's just go back and convert it into the wisdom. It's got to do the work.
And it's okay to fall. It's just don't stay down. Pick yourself up and keep going. That's it's really important. And man, really, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome. And anytime you have something that you want to promote, please let me know. I want to help.
Beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate that. Love you, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Believe me. I also want to thank all of you out there. If you happen by the channel, this is your first time, thank you for stopping by. I hope you'll subscribe and please come back. If you are a regular, thank you for that support, because it's because of you that I get to do this. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network